Hello everyone, welcome to Money Nook. In this video, let's talk about EPF. First, let's talk about the basic concepts such as what is an EPF, what are the different types of contributions you can make under EPF, the interest that you earn from EPF, the tax exemptions and tax benefits that you can gain by investing in EPF, and the rules that you have for withdrawal and nominees. Once we talk these basic concepts, then let's talk about CTC structure and how it will impact our EPF and tax savings. And lastly, let's talk if EPF is a good investment for your particular case or not. Should you or should you not go for it? To start off with, what is an EPF? EPF is a retirement fund, and as it also comes along with multiple tax benefits, we can consider it as a retirement plus tax saving fund. It is run by the EPFO, and if your company has a minimum of 20 employees, then it has to mandatorily enroll itself with EPFO, and automatically all the employees will get the benefit of EPF accounts. Now, who will contribute towards this EPF accounts? Both the employee, means yourself, and the employer, your company, will contribute towards this EPF. So how much can you contribute? You can contribute a maximum of 12% of your basic plus DA towards your EPF. For example, your basic plus DA is 25,000, then you can contribute 3,000 out of it. And similarly, your company can match another 3,000. This is the maximum that you can contribute. Another small note here, throughout this video, instead of calling out basic plus DA every time, I will just say basic. So you have to understand basic means both basic plus DA. So now we can see on the screen that government has given us three different options to contribute. Minimum minimum, minimum maximum and maximum maximum. These options are given in order to increase flexibility for us. So let's see what these different options are and what it means for us. The first option is the mandatory option, which is minimum contribution. So what does it say? You have to contribute mandatorily 12% of your basic up to 15,000 rupees. To put it simply, let's say your basic is 25,000 rupees, then you need not pay 12% of 25,000, but you have to pay 12% of 15,000 for sure. And this 12% of 15,000 is 1,800 rupees. So for anyone with a basic of 15,000 or above, you just need to pay 1,800 rupees towards your EPF, and your company will match another 1,800 rupees. If your basic is below 15,000, then let's say if it is 10,000, then it will be 12% of 10,000, 1,200 by both you and your company. So this is the minimum mandatory amount, 12% of your basic up to 15,000. Now let's move on to the second option. In the second option, your company will continue to contribute the minimum amount, but you can increase your contribution till 12% of your total basic plus DA. So if your basic is 25,000, then you can pay 12% of 25,000, which is 3,000 rupees. Now in the third option, maximum, both you and your company will contribute the maximum possible amount into your EPF account. These are the three different options, and the main reason that we have three different options is to increase flexibility in terms of managing our tax liability in hand cash or liquid cash. If you go with option 1, then you will have more in hand cash or liquid cash, and you can invest it wherever you want, but you will also have to pay more tax. Whereas if you go with option 2 or option 3, then your tax liability decreases and also your EPF account deposit increases, but at the same time your in hand cash will decrease and you will have lesser flexibility to invest your money into any other schemes other than EPF. So before deciding which scheme to go with, we also need to have a look at the interest, the withdrawal rules that this scheme provides to make a final decision. So first let's look at the interest rate and the tax exemptions that EPF provides. EPF has 8.5% rate of interest for this financial year, and this is the highest rate of return for any of the Section 80C schemes. if you exempt NPS and ELSS, both of these are market linked schemes, hence their returns are obviously higher. So if we exempt both of these among all other schemes, EPF has the highest returns. And the interest is calculated based upon the balance that you have at the start of every month in your account. The interest is deposited into your account at the end of each financial year. So it gets compounded annually. Now let's look at the tax implications. Because EPF is a preferred investment option due to the tax benefits that it gives. I have also captured the tax benefits both for old tax regime and new tax regime. As you can see on the screen, I have put down a table to capture the tax implication in both the regimes for principal, interest and the maturity amount as well. If you want to understand the difference between old and new tax regime and check which is better for you, I have uploaded a separate video, you can check it out. Now coming back to EPF. First, let me talk about maturity amount. In both old regime and new regime, the maturity amount for EPF is not taxed. So, it is common. Moving on to the interest. Again, in both old regime and new regime, the interest that is generated on the principal that you deposit up to 2.5 lakhs within a financial year is tax exempt. Most of us deposit less than 2.5 lakhs in our EPF accounts in a financial year. So for most of us, it is tax exempt. And this remains constant in both old regime and new regime. Now the last one is the tax implication on principal, and this is important because in new tax regime, we don't have any tax exemption on the principal that you invest in EPF. Whereas in the old tax regime, you get a benefit of tax exemption up to 1.5 lakhs under section 80C for whatever you invest in EPF. The tax benefits that I just quoted are for your own contribution to EPF. Again, the contribution from your employer will also get similar tax benefits. Your maturity amount is tax exempt. Your interest is tax exempt provided your principal is less than 2.5 lakhs, which again for 95% of the people it will be. So both of this you can consider as tax exempt. Now lastly, the principal amount. The principal amount is also tax exempt in both the regimes. Principal amount contributed by your employer up to 7.5 lakhs is tax exempt. Under this 7.5 lakhs, you have to consider EPF, NPS and any superannuation fund contribution. So up to 7.5 lakhs from your employer in all of these three put together is tax free. So you get tax benefit out of your contribution as well as your employer's contribution. Hence, this is a major tax saving scheme. Want to add a couple of more points here. The interest that you get up to the point of your retirement is only tax exempted. Once you retire at 58 years, then your interest is taxable because this is primarily designed as a retirement fund. And the second point is you will get all of these tax benefits only if you are employed for a continuous period of 5 years. Let's say if someone has just joined job and he is claiming the CPF benefit, but he has stopped working after 3 years or after 2 years, then he has to repay or pay tax for all these tax exemptions that he has claimed in the first 2 or 3 years that he has worked. So 5 years of continuous employment is a mandatory clause to gain all these tax benefits. Now let's look at the withdrawal rules and the rules for nominees. As EPF is designed as a retirement fund, you can withdraw your total corpus once you retire. But in case of unemployment due to any reason, then you can withdraw up to 75% of your corpus after first month of unemployment and the total 100% of your corpus after second month of unemployment. Apart from this, you can also withdraw your fund if you need it for your medical emergencies, children's education, your education, marriage, house purchase, land purchase, etc. I have shared a link to ClearTax website to check out the detailed rules and the maximum amount that you can withdraw under different circumstances from your EPF fund. Do refer to that. Just a disclaimer here, I am not associated with ClearTax in any way, as it is one of the websites which has provided this information. I am just redirecting you to ClearTax. For a EPF account, a nominee can only be a family member. If you don't have a family member, then you can nominate someone else as well. But if you do have a family member and still would want to nominate someone else, then you have to put a separate application to the EPFO. Another important point regarding nominations for your EPF account is, most of us open our EPF account when we are in our first job. So mostly we are single, and at that time when we are doing this application, we will give our mom, dad or sibling as a nominee. But once you get married, then this nomination will become null and void, and if you don't do a fresh nomination, then in case of any unfortunate circumstance, then your EPF corpus will get divided in default shares among your spouse, kids and parents. And if it is a woman, then it will get divided for your in-laws as well. It becomes more complicated as you age and your children attain majority or they get married. There are different rules for those circumstances. In order to avoid all these complications, do update your nomination so that your corpus will go where you want in case of any unfortunate circumstance. Please also update your will so that it matches with your EPFO nomination. I think now we are very clear about EPF. We just talked about what an EPF is, what are the different types of contributions, interest, tax, implications, withdrawal rules and nominee rules. So now let's check out how your CTC structure will impact your EPF and the tax. Most companies structure their CTC in such a way that the basic pay is lower, so automatically the HRA, the EPF and gratuity are lower, but the allowances and variable pay is higher. Mostly the pay is structured in such a way that the in-hand salary is higher and thus is more lucrative. But this has a downside as well, because in this structure you will end up paying more tax. As your basic is lower, automatically your HRA will be lower. So if your HRA is lower, the tax exemption that you get out of HRA will become lower. Similarly, EPF is lower, so the tax benefit that you get out of section 80C as well as your employer contribution becomes lower and you will end up paying more taxes. So you have to check out the tax implication from your salary structure. Within the same company, you can easily negotiate, and most companies in fact are also offering flexi salary planning tools, right? So you can structure your salary the way you want based upon your tax implications and the in-hand pay that you want to receive. You can either opt for higher EPF and lesser tax combination, or higher allowances and higher tax but higher in-hand pay as well. It is easy to balance out when you are in the same company after you work out your entire tax planning and other investment planning as well. But it is more important to check about this structure when you are switching companies, or if you are a fresher in the campus and have just received your offer letter. Because when you have two packages, you don't just compare your CTC but also check out your in-hand pay, your EPF, gratuity, ESOPs, NPS contribution, etc. Check out the net summation of all these components, because that is what you will receive end of the day, whether you receive it today or tomorrow. So if you are a fresher or if you are looking to switch companies, then do pay attention to the EPF contribution and also the contributions to all these different components that we can see on the screen. More often than not, if you are someone who is already in the 30% tax slab, then having a higher basic and higher EPF contribution would be beneficial for you, unless you have alternate investment options where you will be able to consistently generate about 12% return. Now, how to make this decision whether to have a higher EPF or have a higher in-hand pay? Should you invest your money in EPF or not? Let's check it out. Don't get overwhelmed by looking at the table. It is easy to interpret. I'll take you through it. So now the big question before us is, should you invest in EPF or should you invest in some other investment options such as stocks, real estate, gold, etc., right? For the sake of this example, let us assume the second option is stocks to simplify things, right? So now you have to decide between EPF or stocks. Let's say you have 10,000 as your savings amount every month. So you have to decide whether you have to put that 10,000 rupees in EPF or in stocks. Now let's say you have decided with EPF, option 1. Then you will get to invest 10,000 rupees every month in EPF. But you will get something extra out of it as well apart from the return. As EPF is a tax saving scheme, you will be able to save some additional money. For example, if you are in the 20% tax slab, then if you invest 10,000 every month in EPF, you will save additional 2,000 rupees. This additional 2,000 rupees, instead of spending or just putting it in the bank account, let's assume you are investing that 2,000 in stocks. So now this option 1 becomes combo, EPF plus stocks, whereas option 2, you invest 10,000 rupees in stocks. As it does not have any tax saving benefits, simply the 10,000 rupees is put in stocks. Now if you have to decide between both these options, then you have to consider 3 parameters. The first parameter is your tax slab. Why tax slab? Because the higher your tax slab, the more you will be able to save in tax and invest that into stocks. Thus your total combo investment becomes stronger and stronger. So your tax slab is important. The second factor is your rate of return from your stocks. If you are getting 8% as rate of return, then you should not invest in stocks at all, because EPF itself is giving 8.5%. Why go for 8% somewhere else, right? For the sake of this example, I have assumed 9%, 10%, 12% and 14% as rate of return. If you have some other rate of return like 11.255%, you can put that in my Excel sheet, which I will show shortly, and it will give you an answer for that as well. Okay, now so the first factor is your tax slab. The second factor is how much return you are getting out of this second option, which is investment from stocks. These are the 2 factors, and apart from both of this, the third factor is your horizon for investment, because the longer you invest, the more it gets compounded, and as the rate of compounding are different, your decision will also change. So these are the 3 parameters. Now in the table I have exactly put these 3 parameters. As you can see, I have put vertically your tax slab 0%, 5, 10, 15, 20 and 25. So you have to pick out your tax slab. Then next you have to pick out the rate of return that you are assuming, 9%, 10%, 12% or 14%. Just pick that. Then when you pick both of this, you can find out the cell, and you can also find out which is the best recommendation for you. For example, if you are in the 10 to 15 lakhs tax slab, your tax rate is 20%, and if you are getting a return of 10% from your stocks, then for you, as you can see, option 1, the combo investment of EPF plus stocks is the best case for you. Let's say now you are getting a return of 12%, not 10 but 12%. Then for this case, for you, if your investment horizon or the number of years that you are investing is 18 years or lesser, then combo option number 1, EPF plus stocks is better. But if it is more than 18 years, then you have to go with option number 2. Just put your money in stocks. So in this way, based upon your tax rate, your expected rate of return and your investment horizon, you can pick which is the best choice for you. As I promised, now let's have a look at the Excel where you can input your custom rate of return and check out which is better for you. Not only this, in this Excel you can also input the different tax rates and indexation for your asset. The table is assuming that it is stocks, but let's say you decided real estate or gold, then your tax rate and indexation will change. So in this Excel you can try it out for different investment options as well. Apart from this, there is another feature as well. Most of us will not remain in a single tax slab throughout our life, right? Unless we started at 30%, then you will stick with 30% throughout your life. But let's say you started your job with 5% or 10% tax slab. Then as you get promoted or as you get increments, you will move into the next tax slab, 20%, 30% and so on. So as you change tax slabs, how should you make decision? For your custom case, I have a table where you can give your own inputs about number of years and your own tax slab, and then get out the recommendation which is the best case for you. In the Excel, first let's enter the details about both EPF and the alternative investment option. The EPF details will not change, so I have already put these details. The return is 8.5 percentage, tax and indexation is 0%. So the post tax return is also 8.5%. Now, moving on to the alternative investment details. Here I have assumed stocks as the alternative investment, but you can also enter details for real estate, gold, or any other investment option that you have. Let's say the return is 10%. You can put 12% or whatever you think is the return. Similarly, as this is for stocks, I have put the tax as 10%. If it is property, it will be 20.8 percentage, so on and so forth. And indexation impact is also not there for stocks, but if it is property, gold, dividends, or anything else, then you will have a indexation based upon your year of purchase and year of sale. Here you can consider that as year where you started the investment and year where you closed the investment for every investment amount that you did. As we are considering the case of stocks, it is 0 percentage and tax is also 0, and the and tax is 10 percentage and the post tax return is 10.8%. Now, once you enter these details about EPF and your alternative investment option, let's look at the table below. In this table, I have already entered the details about income tax slab. You will either be in 0%, 5, 10, 20, or 30% tax slab. So these details are already present here. Now you have to enter the details about number of years you would invest when you are in this particular income tax slab and the amount that you would invest. For example, let's say when you just started job, you are in 5% tax slab and you continue to be in 5% tax slab for the next 5 years. And in this period, you invest around 25,000 every year. When you do this, the table below will show you the amount that you will get at the end of 5 years from your option 1, which is combo option of ETF plus alternative investment, and option 2, which is alternative investment. So in the combo option, you will get 1,48,000 rupees from EPF and 8,000 rupees from your alternative investment. So total of 1,56,000 rupees. Whereas in your option 2, you will get 1,55,000 rupees. So option 1 will give you slightly higher returns, and hence it is recommending you to go ahead with option 1 for your investment. Now, this is the case assuming that you will invest only for 5 years. Let's say you continue working and you would continue to invest. Now, you have moved to 10% income tax slab and you are investing 50,000 every year, and you are in this tax slab for, let's say, another 5 more years. Then, in this case, if you see here, the recommendation has changed to option 2, because now, though you have invested this amount only for 5 years, the total amount is now invested for total of 10 years. You are not withdrawing it at the end of 5 years. As the investment horizon has increased, the recommendation of the tool also changed. So you have to keep this in view as well. If you remember, the three parameters that will impact your final recommendation are your tax rate, the number of years you stay invested, and the return from your investment. Now, when you look at this, in period 3 where you are in 10% tax slab, the recommendation is option 1 combo. Let's say now you continue to invest and you are working as well, and now you move to 20% tax slab after promotions and increments. Now you plan to invest around 1 lakh every year and you are in this tax slab for, let's say, 10 more years. Then the recommendations again changed. Now for the previous two periods, option 2 is the best option, and for this period, option 1 is the best option. You get promoted again and you are in 30% tax slab for the next 20 years till you retire. So in this period, you plan to invest 1,50,000 rupees. Then in that case, if you can see the final recommendation for period 2, 3 and 4, option 2 is the best recommended option for your particular case, and for period 5, you have to go with option 1. So you have to invest in EPF here. Okay, now what if you change the return? Let's say instead of 12% return in your alternative investment, you just put 10% as estimated return. Then your recommendations will change again. Period 2 and 3 will now recommend option 2, but period 4 has changed it to option 1 and period 5 continued with option 1. So, in this way, based upon your investment horizon, your tax slabs, and your rate of return, the recommendation will change, and you can use this tool to get this personalized recommendations. Okay, I think now you are very clear about how to make a decision between EPF and any other investment option. You can download this Excel from the link in the description. So, now as we talked in the beginning, we discussed about basic things about EPF, then we talked about CTC structure and how it affects our EPF and tax planning. And lastly, we also saw should we or should we not invest into EPF for our own case. If you like the content in this video, please like this video and comment on it. Also, please share it with your friends and do subscribe to Money Nook. Thank you and bye bye.